I am currently working on my presentation for Tuesday next week, which is a presentation, an interview of some sort for this placement. I really hope I'm going to land. I'm going to show you a little bit of what I've worked on, right? And there you go. Green energy, vibrant living, etc. I am not going to show any more of what I've written, but yeah, I am pretty much in this polishing state. I'm going to Manchester, interviews in Manchester. So, interviews on the 23rd, and I'm traveling to Manchester on the 21st. I'm going to stay over at my brother's after almost half a year since I've seen him, which was back in Indonesia, long time ago. Really need to visit my brother and all of that. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this interview. I'm pretty sure I've prepared enough, and who knows? There's bit more data and maybe bit more research that I need to do just for talking points and all of that. But yeah, it's taking up to shape now, and it's looking pretty good so far. But I've just got this new train of thought. Not going to put it that way. But I've been thinking about something these past few days, and it's about working. My friend who's actually living next door, I've asked him this once, but I've basically asked him if he actually wants to work with other people in terms of actually just having a career, working under someone else, working for a company, and he just basically said flat out no. There's probably just no chance of him actually working for someone else. And I've got to respect that he's basically just on track to become an entrepreneur, and he's basically out of all of us who's actually living in this flat. As much as I don't want to give him something to work with, as much as I don't want to work to boost his ego, but he knows what he wants, and he's actually working for it, which is, hey, hats off to him. He's actually doing pretty well for himself. He was actually the guy who motivated me. He was the guy who actually told me, yes, you might think that that much money is actually whole fuck ton of money that you've just lost, right? But you can't think of it like that. He told me that you have to, let's say, have a thicker skin for things like this. When you lose that much money, there's nothing that you can do about it. It's lost. There's no point in contemplating or just beating yourself up because you've lost that much money. But what's better is that you start working on shit that actually helps you maybe even make more money than you've lost. And yeah, I guess there's just so many people that I've known that just don't want to have any jobs. They just don't want to work for other people. If I'm really being honest, and if I'm really being truthful with myself, me neither. I do not want to work for a corporation because I feel like I have much more to offer. But then again, I am severely lacking in skills. I'm severely lacking in just the general outlook and of how things are going and how times are changing, right? And I believe that whether you like it or not, there are some benefits of actually working for other people. That's the whole point of mentorship, isn't it? Once you've actually got a mentor, you don't actually, well, maybe you can work for yourself as you also get mentorship from other people, but it's almost as if you have to walk in their shadow for a bit before you can actually become what you've always wanted yourself to be. And honestly, that's what I've always been looking for. I just want to gain the experience, I just want to gain the outlook, I just want to have someone at first to guide me in actually just that maybe one day would have me reach my potential, I guess. But yes, I was saying people just don't want to work for other people now. And honestly, there's just with with how things are going, with how technology, the internet actually provides a democratization of information, with that many opportunities that you can find to actually make some money in the internet. And now that you don't have to just work in the scope of wherever you are in the world, but you're basically just in a global stage now. I completely agree with him, because there's just so many ways that you can pursue to whatever it is that helps you financially, I guess. But in the other hand, there's no doubt that working for a company actually has their own benefits. For example, security. If you go on this entrepreneurship journey, it's basically going to be a bumpy road. Of course, what you gain is what you provide in some sense. So if you if you believe that, no, it's not about what you believe, but if the market actually finds value in what you provide, then you will be properly compensated for it. And if you work for a company, especially a company that actually has, let's say, has a stable ground, has a company that actually has already found their market, is, well, more or less stable, and is able to actually hire some employees to work for them, they've already know what they're offering to the market. And that being said, definitely gives you security in terms of financial stability, in what do you call it, in terms of how they can pay you wages, stable monthly wages, that's the word, in terms of stable monthly wages. And so if you ask me, and maybe you can also ask yourselves, if you don't want to be an entrepreneur and you want to work for a company, which is, I completely forgot where I got this word from, but it's called entrepreneurship. People who actually innovate within a another company, within a company owned by someone else, or owned by another entity, or whatever you would call it. So it's basically difference in mindset, I guess, being an entrepreneur and versus being an entrepreneur. And for me, I can see both benefits and drawbacks of both. And the fact that there's just so many ways to actually offer value in the internet and actually get compensated for what you do is just unheard of. And 20, 30 years ago, and such a, it's, it's free real estate, some would call it. So what I'm trying to say is, I can basically see why people these days just want to work for themselves, because medium itself actually allows it for people to actually work for themselves and become, let's say, micro entrepreneurs, and basically make a living for themselves. And I am really keen on going on that route. But I guess there's nothing wrong with also working with other people first, especially in placement. Placement is basically just a great opportunity. Just before your last year in a university, you get basically can work for a year, which gives you that you're actually learning a whole ton about the industry where you're actually working in. So if you all you think about is just making money, 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 well, here's one of the shifts that I felt in my way of thinking about money. The amount of numbers you have in your bank account actually reflects the amount of value that you offer to the world. And that's just what I'm trying to drill inside my mind, and actually just basically just taking it to heart, that saying. So, in some sense, I'm trying to actually create value, and hopefully I can, fingers crossed, I can get compensated however much it is, and hopefully I get fulfilled in whatever value I'm trying to provide. Anyways, there's also another thing that I want to talk about, which is how people who work in companies I'm not going to say that it's all of them, but quite a lot of them just likes to complain. There's something weird about how people think sometimes, and for sure I've actually have thought like this before. But sometimes people, me myself included at times, like to complain but don't actually do anything about their complaints in terms of what they could have worked for to mitigate whatever it is they are complaining about. So basically, you can say that people are happily complaining. They just go to work, they complain about stuff that happens at work, but with how many things they can actually do to basically get over any of those hurdles, they do nothing. So I guess that's one of the. I'm not saying it's a drawback because a lot of people are wired differently, and some people just love to complain. So I guess for any of you who are working for other people, just know that you've actually chosen this path. Before you actually get into it, you have to know what are the positives and negatives that you gain from working with other people, and you basically just have to own it. If you don't like what you see, then do something about it. So that's basically just my whole jumbled train of thought. This is pretty much what I have to say about this topic, and I'm going to go back working on my interview, well, presentation, because I'm pretty sure there are a lot of things that I've left. I'd better get started again.